Good afternoon. Please be seated if you can. It is my great pleasure to welcome you all to this opening convocation of the 2022-23 academic year. As we begin the new year, it is helpful to remember the words of Czech poet, dissident, and then President Václav Havel. Havel writes that hope kindles the breathtaking dimension of the human spirit and its efforts. Hope is an orientation of the spirit, an orientation of the heart. It transcends the world that is immediately experienced and is anchored somewhere beyond its horizons. Hope, in this deep and powerful sense, is not the same as joy that things are going well or a willingness to invest in enterprises that are obviously headed for early success, but rather an ability to work for something because it is good, not just because it stands a chance to succeed. The more unpromising the situation in which we demonstrate hope, the deeper that hope is. Hope is not the same thing as optimism. It is not the conviction that something will turn out well, but the certainty that something makes sense, regardless of how it turns out. It is this hope, above all, that gives us the strength to live. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm President Allison Byerly, and it is my pleasure to welcome you to Carleton's opening convocation. Convocation is a long-standing tradition and one of Carleton's most distinctive features. We set aside a weekly time in the calendar to create opportunities for the entire community to gather and hear a talk or a program that provides a shared basis for intellectual exchange and ongoing dialogue. Carleton's continuing commitment to creating this shared space reflects an understanding that intellectual inquiry and robust debate are fundamental to any academic community and critical building blocks for democratic citizenship. It's very appropriate, therefore, that our convocation speaker today is Minnesota's United States Senator Amy Klobuchar. In a change from the order printed on your program, we will begin today's program hearing from the senator. We are delighted to welcome Senator Klobuchar to be with us from Washington today. She is no stranger to Carleton, having visited campus for a convocation address back in 2015. Since arriving in the Senate, Amy Klobuchar has earned a reputation as an effective, results-driven legislator willing to reach across the aisle to get things done. She's worked to expand higher education opportunities while fighting for stronger federal support to make higher education affordable. She knows our future success as a state and as a nation depends on making sure that quality education is accessible and affordable to all. Please join me in welcoming Senator Amy Klobuchar.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much, President Byerly, for the warm introduction, your leadership at the tremendous College of Carleton. I saw the bubbles in the chapel, guys, and I have very fond memories of being there in person, but I think just kind of typical of everything that you've been through the last few years, I had to appear by Zoom today because actually, guess what? We're finally getting things done in Washington, which I could not say. Yes, thank you. We have had a major change in productivity and delivering, and that means that I couldn't be there today. But I want to thank the faculty and the staff. Again, I see you. I know you look great. Regalia is in this season. I can tell already. And to all the students, whether you've lived in Northfield your whole life, or you have never set foot in Minnesota before this week, welcome. This is a state where you'll soon find out all the women are strong, all the men are good looking, and all the Carls are above average. When I saw those bubbles, and I'm sitting here in my office, and the music, I can't hear you guys now, but I heard the music early on before the president's introduction, and it actually brought me way back to something many, many years ago when I was invited at the last minute to the White House to introduce then President Clinton. And I was the county attorney I had never even been in the White House before, not even for a tour. And he was introducing this hate crime legislation, which was really, really important at the time. And there I was standing outside of the East Room. It was filled with people and cameras, just kind of like you're walking in right now. There's music. In this case, it was the military band playing Hail to the Chief, you know, the song, da, 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 da. So that thing is playing and I just start walking in. I'm super nervous. I start walking in and all of a sudden I feel this big hand on my shoulder and this voice says, I know you're going to do great out there, but when they play that song, I usually go first. That was my entry into music. And as I watched all of you enter, I thought about that. And I can tell you this, it worked out okay because that was my first official visit to Washington, D.C. And this job was my second. So students, today you come first. And I think you know that. You are pursuing your education at a truly exceptional institution. For more than 150 years, Carleton College has been dedicated to preparing students to have both successful careers and successful lives. As such, the school attracts great students from all walks of life. In the class of 2026 alone, there are students from 46 states and 24 countries, from St. Paul to St. Lucia. Among you in the chapel are athletes and astronomers, volunteers and violinists, pioneers and public servants. And you all have something big in common. In the face of a global pandemic, all of you chose to pursue education. You worked hard, you learned that any space can be your classroom. You figured out how to use a mute button better than teachers and professors. And I can promise you this, a whole lot better than my colleagues in the US Senate. Your perseverance brought you to today's convocation. And as Carleton students, you've joined the ranks of some truly impressive alums. Montana Senator Max Baucus, who I got to serve with, and he went on to be ambassador to China. To the Washington Post, Jonathan Capehart, who's one of my favorite shows to go on Sunday mornings because he dances before it starts, but no one sees it. To Parks and Recreation's Ben Wyatt. Okay, that last one, maybe he's not real, but it's a pretty good one. Carleton College is also where my friend, the late Paul Wellstone, was a professor before he was elected to the US Senate. Paul taught me a lot. Paul taught me that what you do matters. He taught me that politics is about, in his words, improving people's lives. He taught me how to campaign on city buses when I was running for county attorney and I was in a really hard race. He was a US Senator and he campaigned with me. He got on the bus with me and we would go all the way down the Nicollet Mall and we would shake everyone's hands and then we'd go, bye everyone. Then we would get off, but then we would get on the bus going the other way. And we went over and over and over. That was Paul, and we miss him dearly. And he was an incredible professor. And if you guys ever visit my office in Washington, just last year, someone gave me his briefcase from Carleton. It has his initials on it, and it was something that he cherished, and I have it displayed in our conference room. Paul once said, as free citizens in a political democracy, we have a responsibility to be interested and involved in the affairs of the human community, be it at the local or the global level. And I can't think of a time when his words have felt more relevant. All of you have come of age at a truly unprecedented moment in our nation's history. In recent years, we've seen the global pandemic, the murder of George Floyd in our state, and a national reckoning on justice, a historic election, an insurrection. And today, as you sit there, a war in Ukraine is demonstrating both the fragility and the resiliency of democracy in the 21st century. So I hope you don't mind if I talk a little bit about Ukraine, simply because it's on my mind. I was just there 10 days ago. Senator Portman and I got through the war zone in ways we can't ever talk about, but in the middle of the night, we went in and met with President Zelensky and had an incredible moment with him. And I just want you to think of that. As you think about starting your Carleton career and your education and our country and democracy and what purpose is, to think about what's going on there. As a great man once said, the price of liberty is to be eternally vigilant. And to me, we cannot take our democracy for granted. And part of your education is to make sure that whether you are debating the major issues of our time, including maybe Ukraine, whether you are involved in science or whatever you do, for me, a lot of it is strengthening our democracy and your role in civic debate and civic society. Because what we saw in Ukraine is something I'll never forget. We visited that mass grave in Bucha. We saw the burned out apartments in Irpin. We also saw firsthand the strength of the Ukrainian people in the face of Vladimir Putin's inhuman barbarism. President Zelensky, who I've met with a number of times, including meeting with him right before the war started, asked me to directly tell everyone I spoke to, whether I was at the Labor Day picnic on the Iron Range in northern Minnesota or on the floor of the US Senate or at this convocation, to tell Americans thanks for what our country has done. We have kept their people fed. We have kept their economy going in the face of unimaginable obstacles. And along with more than 40 nations, from Japan to South Korea to Poland, that has taken in over 1 million refugees, we have given them what they need to fight this war. That is what it means to be, in Paul Wellstone's word, involved in the affairs of the human community. No one expected ballerinas in Ukraine were going to put on camo and go to the front lines. Those workers in that nuclear plant that are just trying to hold it together in a skeleton crew while they're surrounded by Russian troops going to work every day to prevent a major nuclear disaster, these Ukrainians, can you imagine what their lives are like? Not just in Ukraine, but that disaster could spread to all of Europe. Or the cellists playing beautiful melodies in the bombed out remnants of a town square, reminding people that culture and love still exist in their country. Or President Zelensky himself standing out there, not leaving his post to say, we are here. We are here. That matters in politics. That matters in life. You students, you are there. You have been through, as I mentioned, the pandemic, not knowing if you were ever going to be able to actually go to college in person, or if you were ever going to be able to get through your high school or go to your year-end graduation ceremony. You got through that. You're there. And it's your job now, even though you've got a lot on your shoulders already, to make sure that we remember what our country is all about and what that civic culture, which is directly related to education, is all about. I know people tell you that college is about preparing to enter the real world, but let's be honest, you already have been living in it. And I just encourage each and every one of you to heed Professor Wellstone's advice in his honor, and that is be interested and be involved. And as I mentioned at the beginning of my remarks, that's what we have been doing in Washington when everyone had counted us out. We took on the NRA and passed the Bipartisan Safety Communities Act with my friend Chris Murphy leading the way, whoever's out there from Connecticut. No one thought that that was going to be possible until those pictures started showing up with those kids from Uvalde in their communion dresses and holding their sports trophies, or the story of the man in Buffalo who had just simply gone to a grocery store to get his kid a birthday cake and never came back. The public finally said enough is enough. Or the Bipartisan Chips Act, something completely different to increase domestic semiconductor production. And all of you out there that has an interest in not only business, but science, understand that those chips go in everything from our cars to our phones to our refrigerators. We got that done so we actually can be reliant on our own country in the future. We passed the PACT Act to expand access to VA healthcare for our veterans suffering from conditions that come about because of toxic exposure overseas. A favorite thing for the Minnesotans of Scandinavian backgrounds, we ratified the Finnish and Swedish applications to NATO. 95 senators voted for that. And I had the honor of following on the Senate floor when I gave my remarks, one of the senators that voted against it, or the only one. And I actually gave this big speech about everything Finland and Sweden had to offer to NATO. And I looked up and it was all the ambassadors and the military for Sweden and Finland. And within 15 minutes, I got a note from the Finnish president thanking me for standing up for them. I tell you these stories because they are we are here stories. They're doing your job, whether as a student, a professor, or a US senator, and realizing it can make a difference. We passed the Inflation Reduction Act just a few months ago, and we're going to be over at the White House tomorrow. Luckily, they didn't do it today, or I would have been here with you guys instead. But we're going to celebrate the passage of that bill, which will allow us to finally lower prescription drug costs and tackle climate change. And I know many of you students are interested in the climate change issue. And actually, with this bill, we're on track to reduce carbon emissions by 40% by 2030. Well on our way to, with your help, when you guys graduate, to do more to completely get to carbon neutral by 2050. I think you know the stakes couldn't be higher. A new report just showed that Greenland's ice sheet just experienced its largest September melt event on record. Recent flooding in Pakistan left a third of the country underwater. In California, I'm sure you have students from the great state of California, where I was just there for the code conference about a week ago. The mosquito fire has grown so large in the great state of California that it's actually dictating weather patterns. Climate change isn't something that's happening 100 years in the future. It's happening now, and it's especially happening now for those of you who just are starting college and have your whole lives in front of you. Your generation has said loud and clear that you want to be part of the solution. And I'm confident that this chapel is full of the next generation of climate scientists, climate lawyers, and climate advocates, which is a good thing because the world needs you. That's just one of the many challenges we're facing. If it was up to me and I could wave a magic wand right now, not only would I pass my Freedom to Vote Act, another story for another day, but we need to also fix the immigration system and live up to America's promise. Because as you know from your classmates and those that you're going to get to know both in your class and in other classes at Carleton, immigrants don't diminish America, they are America. Then finally, I couldn't leave you without mentioning the need to stand up for our freedoms. Freedom of the press, yes, and freedom of privacy and freedom to vote, but also to stand up for the women in this country who want to be the ones to make their own healthcare decisions when it comes to reproductive freedom and abortion, and not politicians. That's what's on my mind today. And I bet there's some people out there that didn't agree with some things that I said. Ooh, that might be, but you know what? That's what Carleton is about, because you're going to hear views and an exchange of views. And I hope that you keep your minds open, no matter if you agree with someone or not, to one, debating them. Maybe sometimes people change their views. I know I learned a lot of things in college that changed some of my views, but at the very least, you can end up having some really good friends from places and from backgrounds that you never knew would be your friend. And so that's why I want you to remember that and not view differences in opinion, which I have a lot with my colleagues here, 3 phone calls alone today with senators where we didn't quite see eye to eye. That's part of being an American. So please carry this torch forward for us, for our democracy. The world is counting on you. It's not going to be easy. I always say that the obstacles in life are not obstacles, they are your path. So remember that when something goes wrong, or you have a class that you don't understand, or you have a test that doesn't go like you wanted it to, or something doesn't work out with one of your friends, just remember this. The obstacles aren't obstacles. The obstacles are your path. The obstacles and overcoming them, as I've learned in my life, are the path to volunteerism and generosity of spirit, the path to understanding different backgrounds, cultures, religions, and yes, as I mentioned, political views, the path to understanding that to succeed, you stand your ground and find common ground, your path to lifelong friendships, your path to generate new ideas that we need so dearly in this country. So no matter what, your path is yours. And as you continue on, know that you're equipped with something truly valuable. That is the education you're going to get from Carleton College that will allow you to lead with innovation, creativity, and moral clarity. I believe you can do this because I see you all out there on my screen, and that's what gives me that clear-eyed optimism about the future. Your generation has already been through a lot. And if you've been through what you have to get to where you are now, anything and everything is possible. This is going to be your 4 years to shine, to dream, to act, and lead. So thank you, Carleton College, and go Knights.
Thank you, Senator Klobuchar, for not only that emphasis on public service, but that wonderful example of public service. Let me begin my own remarks today by noting that Carleton, as we all know, is a college that is intimately connected to its local environment, our lovely campus, the wonderful Arboretum, and the neighboring community. It's fitting, therefore, that we acknowledge the history of the land that surrounds us. We stand on the homelands of the Wapekute and Mdewakanton bands of the Dakota Nation. We honor with gratitude the people who have stewarded this land through the generations and their ongoing contributions to this region. We acknowledge the ongoing injustices that we have committed against the Dakota Nation, and we wish to interrupt this legacy, beginning with acts of healing and honest storytelling about this place. We share this acknowledgement on public occasions to help foreground our commitment to ongoing study and dialogue about the experience of Indigenous peoples in this area. Last year, we undertook a number of initiatives in this regard, including presenting the Why Treaties Matter exhibit and hosting reciprocal visits with members of the Prairie Island Nation, including its president, the first such visit at Carleton. We're excited to continue this work with the help of a new staff colleague, the Indigenous Communities Liaison, who joined our community this summer, as part of our ongoing efforts to become a more broadly inclusive community. The start of a new academic year is a joyous time, particularly after a period in which gatherings such as this were somewhat more difficult to accomplish. It's been wonderful to see students return to campus to take part in New Student Week and other activities, to see faculty and staff engage in retreats and discussions to prepare for the coming year, and to see all the signs of strength in Carleton that give us confidence that a wonderful year lies ahead. Even US News rankings are smiling on us today. Nevertheless, there are still many challenges facing Carleton and colleges like us. We're living in a time in which higher education is facing intense scrutiny. Concerns over high levels of student debt nationwide, and a long-standing strain of skepticism about the practical benefits I'm waiting to see if they're coming back for a second round. A long-standing strain of skepticism about the practical benefits of a broad-based liberal arts education are converging with broader efforts to undermine faith in expertise, information, and educational institutions of all kinds. We're seeing not just familiar critiques of elite colleges and universities with large endowments, but unprecedented attacks on school boards, high school curricula, and libraries. Within this highly politicized environment, it's important that we respond to, and not simply shrug off, questions about the benefits of the kind of education we offer at Carleton that we may feel have been asked and answered many times before. To use a recent example, the release less than 2 weeks ago of some Federal Reserve data on college majors and incomes has led to a spate of articles focusing on the financial benefits of specific fields, along with opinion pieces suggesting that college students should all seek to major in specific, largely STEM, disciplines. These articles ignore the fact that recent survey data also notes a strong trend towards workers seeking and being most individually successful at work that they personally find meaningful and fulfilling. This is consistent with the advice most Carleton students are likely to get from your advisors, which is that majoring in an area that excites you is a far better approach than choosing a field based simply on current trends or imagined career prospects. As we now recognize, it's impossible to know in today's rapidly changing world what jobs will be desirable or even exist 10, 20, or 30 years from now. In fact, the premise of a liberal arts education is that it is trend-proof, as it provides a holistic, broad-based education in which the learning process is often more important than the specific field that you study. Whatever you major in, you'll proceed through a curriculum that provides an introductory grounding, gradually more complex and sophisticated challenges, and finally, the opportunity for independent work that tests your intellectual agility and capacity for original thinking. While there certainly are some career paths, like that followed by those of us who became professors, where specific disciplinary training is needed, many Carleton students go into careers in areas wholly unrelated to their majors. They carry with them a capacity for analytic thinking, thoughtful communication, and working collaboratively that are the very characteristics employers say they're looking for. Having spoken with many Carleton alumni across the country in every imaginable line of work, I've heard firsthand accounts of the value of not just a specific major field, but the breadth of education that they received at Carleton. I hope that those of you who are first-year students, or as yet undeclared sophomores, will take seriously the important process of deciding on a major, but not fall prey to the claim that this is a life-defining decision on which every aspect of your future depends. Every field at Carleton is the right major, and our alumni demonstrate that every field can lead to a life of success, fulfillment, and service. At a time when our culture seems determined to reduce every issue to clear binaries, pitting one side against another side, it's important to recognize that the different disciplines we offer at Carleton are not in competition with each other, but complement each other as part of a robust and well-rounded curriculum. As an English professor, I of course love what we call figurative language, so I can't resist closing with an extended metaphor to illustrate this point. Not long ago, a faculty member in biology sent me a lovely picture from the ARB of azure or sky blue asters, noting that the combination of azure asters and goldenrod throughout the ARB were a lovely evocation of Carleton's own traditional maize and blue colors. I know that he and many other members of the Carleton community are familiar with the work of Robin Wall Kimmerer, a professor of environmental biology at SUNY and a member of the citizen Potawatomi Nation who spoke at Carleton in 2020. In her book, Breeding Sweetgrass, Indigenous Wisdom, Scientific Knowledge, and the Teachings of Plants, Kimmerer recounts a key anecdote that happens to feature asters and goldenrod. As an entering college student, Kimmerer tells a biology professor that she's interested in botany because she wants to know why asters and goldenrod look so beautiful together. He notes reprovingly that such a question is, quote, not science. After Kimmerer has earned a PhD in botany and become a professor herself, she comes back to the question of why these sharply contrasting plants seem to harmonize particularly well, and she incorporates knowledge of plants she's gathered from Indigenous elders, an understanding of the visual effects of color and their impact on bee pollination, and many other sources that she weaves together. She asks finally, science and art, matter and spirit, Indigenous knowledge and Western science, could they be goldenrod and asters for each other? The two plants represent contrasting yet complementary ways of knowing that together offer a more complete picture than either one can offer itself. Kimmerer's metaphor is a wonderful description of liberal arts education. It captures the holistic balance that Carleton offers of science and art, social sciences and humanities, quantitative measurement and creative experience, all of which come together in recognition of the fact that knowledge is always partial, and not just multiple individual perspectives, but different ways of knowing must be applied to any problem. The essence of metaphor is that it links two separate ideas, creating a delicate balance in which the resonance between those ideas creates new meaning that depends on them both. So in the Carleton curriculum, every discipline gains meaning through comparison and contrast with the fields that surround it. It's not a matter of valuing, as opinion writers would suggest, STEM versus the humanities, but valuing STEM and humanities, social science and art. Like the maize and blue flowers we admire in the Arb, they're woven together into a rich tapestry that is more beautiful for its contrast and complexity. In a world that seems determined to force every issue into sharply opposed categories of black or white answers, our ability to discern and create this kind of multicolored nuance will be critically important in the future. In the end, that is the case for liberal arts education. It creates thinkers who are not trained to perform tasks designed by others, but inspired to think differently from those around them. As students, you can feel confident in the value of your degree because that value does not depend on what you chose to major in at Carleton, but on what you are capable of doing after Carleton. The habits of learning you develop here will ensure that your abilities continue to grow throughout your life. Your Carleton education is a renewable resource. As faculty, you can feel pride in offering, and staff can feel pride in supporting this extraordinary education. It is a privilege to join you in this effort and be among the gardeners in this beautiful field. Thank you for your contributions to making Carleton what it is, and best wishes to all for a wonderful start to a new year together. Thank you. I'm now happy to introduce Provost Michelle Matson to recognize students on the Dean's List.
Good afternoon and welcome. Welcome to the start of a new academic year and welcome to this celebration of new beginnings that lie ahead. By tradition, Carleton recognizes and honors student accomplishments and awards at the Spring Honors Convocation. The one exception to that practice is the Dean's List, which is always recognized at the opening convocation of the year. This exception is very appropriate. Normally, the grade point average is computed on a cumulative basis over a student's entire Carleton experience. But the Dean's List recognizes those students whose annual grade point average puts them in the top 10% of their class for that particular year. It's based on the GPA earned in academic work over the 3 terms of the academic year for which it is awarded. It offers recognition for superior academic achievement in the year just completed and begins each year anew with a clean slate, new opportunities, and a new beginning. Students whose academic achievements earn them a place on the Dean's List for the 2021-2022 academic year are named in your program. Will those of you who are named please stand up so that the rest of us can offer you our enthusiastic congratulations.
Congratulations to all of our students. I now invite Chaplain Carolyn Fierce-Slocum to present the valedictory.
Irish poet Seamus Heaney is both realistic and idealistic about the state of the world and the possibilities of change in his poem, The Cure at Troy. Human beings suffer. They torture one another. They get hurt and get hard. No poem or play or song can fully right a wrong inflicted and endured. The innocent in jails beat on their bars together. A hunger striker's father stands in the graveyard dumb. The police widow in veils faints at the funeral home. History says, don't hope on this side of the grave. But then, once in a lifetime, the longed-for tidal wave of justice can rise up, and hope and history rhyme. So hope for a great sea change on the far side of revenge. Believe that a further shore is reachable from here. Believe in miracles and cures and healing wells. Call miracles self-healing, the utter self-revealing double take of feeling. If there's fire on the mountain or lightning and storm, and a God speaks from the sky, that means someone is hearing the outcry and the birth cry of new life at its turn. Blessings and best wishes on this new academic year. Thank you.
As we end our program today, I'm pleased to introduce Director Matthew Olson and the Carlton Choir, who will lead us in singing the Alma Mater. They will sing it through once, for those of you who might not yet know it well, and then we'll join them for a second round. Please stand, and following the Alma Mater, please remain standing at your seats for the recessional.